hegi keno.
It's exciting that we are 40. We are 40, and I think the PCA Church was among the first churches to ordain women into ministry. And so it's a joy to look back and thank God for the last 40 years. Of course, it wasn't easy for the very first people like Reverend Dr. Nyambura. Of course, people didn't know how do you handle a woman? How do you handle a young woman with a family, a young woman who is giving birth, a young woman who is expectant, and all these things. I think we've come through all that. Now that's not shocking. And so we look back with appreciation for the many women who had to make way, sometimes painfully, through the wilderness and create way for the rest of us to come in.
40, biblically, is the end of a season. So I feel like we are entering a new era. When God wants to say, when the Bible wants to say something has come to an end, they'll say they waited for 40 years, for 40 days. 40 is an end of a season. So I know that we are gearing into a new level. With God, you can never go back. So with God, there is something called growth. Retrogression and backwardness and stagnation is not of God. So where we are, glory and honor unto God. We honor the first ministers. We can imagine the challenges that they had. If we are still facing challenges in the 21st century, we can imagine the challenges they faced. But they braved it up to this time. We have so many lady ministers and we are getting more. So I feel I want to salute the people who have braved the negative, the stigmatization of being a woman minister, wondering whether you have the right authority. We thank God for that far. And I feel we have come to the end of a season. We are starting a new one. Something that the Lord is going to do for the women ministry in Kenya. And for me, I salute the people who created for us inroads. I imagine that for me to be held, my hand was held by Reverend Josephine. By the time I was going, I didn't know I would find her, but when I found her, I felt very confident. I am sure her hand was held by another minister. So the fact that I have been held by ministers to go to the next level, I am also waiting that I will be able to hold other people wherever I go. Actually, that's one of the things I do. I scout out for people who can become ministers. I just do it. And if I get a lady, I will hold her and see whether she can go to the next level. So for me, what it means is that a new season. And for me as a person, the Lord has no limits. So there is going to be greatness even in the days to come.
40 years is like marking a journey. And of course, there's the way we take 40 years even biblically. It is completing a journey and all that. It's also a new beginning. And I think for the church, PCA first, and the Church of Jesus Christ, locally and even international, I mean, this is a new phase, is a new season, and it's a new reality that God has brought us to. And so I think it's a time of reflection as we look back with thanksgiving, but also to see where God is calling us to move from where we are.
I call you faithful, 'cause your name is faithful. Faithful you are to me, and faithful you are, and faithful you will be. 40 years for me is very significant in terms of celebration, because one of memory. Memory is actually part of progress. Anytime you look back to move forward. Secondly, we look back to learn. So it's an opportunity for us to learn and take stock of those lessons, so that moving forward, we are not just starting from scratch, but we are starting from somewhere, because we want to appreciate that there is so much that has already been done. We also look back to affirm the gains that have already been made, because in looking back, we are able to mark, to articulate, and to keep the gains that we have acquired, so that we can move forward and never slip back. But it is also important to appreciate that we look back to also honor those that have gone ahead of us. Why? Because of the sacrifices they made, the battles they fought, you know, their great commitment. And the things, you know, some of the things that are so obvious for us today, they were not obvious for them that particular time. But most importantly also, we look back to worship with gratitude. Gratitude because we can see the hand of God, because it's all about Him. It's all about serving Him. It's all about giving it, you know, our best, not relying on our ability, but relying on the, you know, on the help of God.
I remember when we had a small meeting before the process began with the business committee. We had a team of women ministers, and we did some of our meetings online. And we were, Reverend Dr. Nyambura Njoroge, the one who is our first woman to be ordained, was challenging us to write our stories. I remember telling her, I am not ready to write, because I was feeling some of the stories are still very, when I tell them, they are so fresh and pain-free fresh. But after we discussed and talked about our stories and what our stories would mean, I realized that these stories are actually the ones that have made me whom I am, that have made me the minister I am today. 28 years later. And so for me, 40 years celebration is a moment of celebration, is a moment of rejoicing over the joys and pains that I've gone through. Sometimes very painful. Like that time when I was posted to the area that I've been married the other day, it was so difficult to take it, but when I landed, I realized it was a land of blessing.
We are not celebrating ourselves. We are celebrating what God has done for the 40 years, that the door has been opened for us for 40 years. It may have taken so long for us to be many, but the few that we are, we need to celebrate that God has been on our side, and God has walked with us. Yeah, and also to celebrate what the church that has given us the chance to be there, to exercise the gifts that God has given us.
We are thanking God that they will be able to serve together with the men to take this church to the next level. And personally, I'm very excited about the celebration of the 40 years. When I was in high school, I was able to see on in a newspaper the ordination of Reverend Dr. Nyambura. And I removed that part of the newspaper and I kept it somewhere. And I told God I would want to be a minister like this one. And when I see the 40 years, I really thank God that I am part of this celebration of 40 years.
As a person, I celebrate the fact that God allowed me to become a minister. And before me, there are those who have labored along the way. And in all humility, there are those who have been called home. They have paved the way for us. And as you talk about 40 years, you can agree with me that it was a struggle. When you look at our history, it wasn't easy for ladies to be absorbed into ordination. So in a big way, I salute those who have rested in the Lord. May the Lord bless their families. Those who are still with us and were ordained before me, I really salute them in a big way, thanking and appreciating most of them who really come to support and to encourage young clergy as we join this ministry. For me, I'm celebrating that God has been so gracious, and this far I can say, yes, I have a reason to celebrate. Looking ahead, I'm trusting that God will call as many. Now that our church has this open door, that anybody with a call from above can be absorbed into the ministry, I'm looking forward to having so many ladies join the ministry, not just for the name, not just for fame or anything else, but we team up together to serve the Lord and to the glory of God.
40, if you read the Old Testament, and it even overflows into the New Testament, is fullness. When something attains 40, it's fullness. You realize that 40 is mentioned in the law of Moses. 40 is also mentioned later in Israel. You remember King David, the great king of Israel, reigned for 40 years.
No Jesu areho rogendo ne ruega totwa ranete hegi keno asha eoti jerahodo asha eoti jerahodo noto geviena Jesu gerande geriga no a hodiero gendo rito. One, I thank God for these years that we are for 40 years that we are celebrating the ministry, because there are those first ladies who were ordained. Yes, they faced so many challenges, so that we may be, we may come along with them, so that we may celebrate what we are celebrating today. They persevered a lot. 40 years is not a joke. 40 years, somebody who was born 40 years ago, there is a journey. They are married. They are already there in their family. They are working. They are progressing on well. So 40 years of celebration, it's quite something that needs to be celebrated with a lot of jubilations, because it has been a journey of the faithful servant who persevered a lot so that we may celebrate today. So what I would like to say, and also my speech on this day, is that God calls both men and women to serve God. And there is no limitation of who is supposed to serve where or where. We believe in the priesthood of all believers. We also believe that God is the one who calls both men and women to serve, and also to serve Him in the kingdom. So personally, I don't think there is a special treat that we may expect I may expect as a female minister, because I'm equal with my counterparts. There is no room of maybe a favor or something. We serve God together. You know, when you have been called, you don't bring your feminism in the ministry. You don't bring your maleism in the ministry. You come as who you are in the ministry, and you tell God, take hold of my right hand, lead me in your ways. So to me, as we are celebrating 40 years, is that so far we thank God for the opportunity to serve, and also to allow our daughters, our men, both men and women, to come and serve God in this holy ministry. You know, when we hear stories of the clergy women who are ordained ahead of us, yeah, and we hear stories and we hear the challenges they went through. Their challenges were unique. They were not even like the challenges because especially now when you look at Dr. Jane Nyambura, yeah, what the story she would tell is different from us, because as we had, at least there were others who were ahead of us. So I want to say that is a milestone. To me, is the victory of the church, that the church was able to embrace women. And even in the parishes that women have served, you hear people appreciating their unique way of leadership. So I really thank God that 40 years down the line, we are part of that celebration, and we have our joys and we have our challenges as women serving in this church. But I want to say that indeed is a milestone, and how I pray that as going forward, we'll be able to see more coming in, so that we can, God can use any person as long as you're willing. So he can use you to become a minister. He can use you to really serve in his vineyard. So time is ripe for us to also embrace as many as possible. And to me, I really thank God. And like the theme is saying, it's a time to rejoice and celebrate, and also tell more about the doings of the Lord.
I see the work of God, and I see God working in the ministry to bring in both men and women to work together in taking the gospel further.
But we also want to celebrate men, actually, because without them, it would not have been possible. Because, of course, they are decision makers. They are the policy makers. They are at the boardroom, even today. And so, as they say in other movements, it's a movement of he for she. So if she is going to continue growing and blossoming, then he needs to be involved in this journey. And so we also celebrate the many men, the many leaders, our church fathers, who actually sat down and said it is time. The likes of, the Reverend Gato, John Gato, and others, and who said it's time. We also celebrate elders of the church because the decisions are made in committees, who said it's time. The Women's Guild, who had actually started the struggle quite early in 1922, and they started the struggle, to emancipate the women, saying no to retrogressive things. So we want to celebrate all these people. So as much as it's a celebration for clergy women, it is a celebration for the church.
It's a great milestone to celebrate 40 years of women ordination in the Presbyterian Church of East Africa. It is a matter that we have taken up as a church very seriously. Before women were ordained, the gender, the women in the church may have felt like they did not own the church. There were very many. But since the first ordination and subsequent ordinations, our women feel they are part of this church in a very big way because they have women they can identify with. Our daughters also feel this is their church because they can look up to those who are older than them serving and realize that if they have a call, it is in the right church where it will get space.
Can't we make something deliberate and say, during the 40th anniversary, or this year or this month, we educated a girl. We helped pay school fees. We helped a child with special needs get the assistive devices that they needed. We visit, something continuous, not just because it's 40 years. Then we stay silent until it's 50 years, then we come back and celebrate. So can we do something lasting? Maybe at individual level. I decide within myself for this year, I will do.
I just want to thank God that during this time, as we take time to celebrate the 40 years, I can be counted to be among those that, can take time to reflect, and I'm also serving. So it's a challenge that the next 40 years, something must be done so that should there be a celebration like this, what contribution will I have made? And to also encourage others, let's give it our best.
There is one who has been there 40 years ago. So it has been a journey which is better and smoother because we have cleared for them most of the obstacles that were there.
Sisters, let us unapologetically celebrate and glorify God for this far we have come, not because of our own doing, but because God is faithful, and God's timing is God's timing, and no one can take it away from us.
Whenever number 40 comes among the Jews, it is a number that is symbolizing fullness. So when we celebrate 40 years of women ministry or ordination of women into the holy ministry, we are saying that that ministry has ripened. It has got to a point where it's full, and it can now only get better. You can't kill it now. It can only get better, because having attained 40 years, and 40 years being a time of fullness, it has fully ripened. We can only do better than we have done already.
Even some of them, I've mentioned Reverend Zipporah Janga. She trained me. I want to encourage Dad and the children and any other family member whose mother has gone to be with the Lord. It was not in vain. The work they did, serving in the house of the Lord, is not in vain. I want to remind you, Mommy, when she was there, she kept on telling you, Jesus is with you, he'll never leave you. Even now that she's gone to be with the Lord home, Jesus is still with you. Mommy played a big role. She was a mentor. These women are great. Please follow their footsteps, serve the Lord until we meet them again.
I interacted with two of the leading ministers who've passed. One is Reverend Alpha Makinywa. She was my tutor. She taught me. She was my lecturer at St. Paul's, and she was very motherly. We loved her. She taught us and we could understand, because it was very easy to understand and also to interact with her. She was the best minister. When we knew she was Presbyterian, because St. Paul is an ecumenical university, we were very attached to her. So I would say she did what the Lord had called her to do, and she did it with passion. So that is one of the things I would say for the family. Just know that she's in a better place and she has served. She would say like Paul, like, I have run the race, I have finished the race, and I have done my job. So glory and honor to God, and may the Lord keep them, and may the Lord bring another seed from that family even to serve. I have also interacted with Margaret. Margaret was a student minister. She was from Sigona. I was working in Limuru. And I also, she happened to have lived in Limuru. And actually, I am mentoring one of the son, her son called Joroge, who we are in the same group called Limuru Praise Team. And I would say that even if we felt like the death of Margaret was a bit untimely, because she passed on in her prime, just when she was going to be ordained, we know that it was not in vain. Her ministry was not in vain, even for the family, and the Lord who calls does not forget. So as an encouragement to the family, let them know that the ministry of their mom was not wasted. And I can see the ministry being born in the children, and I know greater things are coming for the families. Even for the others I don't know, I would say poleni sana, and I would also say, may the Lord keep you. And out of that seed that was planted and the one that fell on the ground, may the Lord bring up new seeds of ministry from those families.
Just to tell the families that the Lord loves them, and though it was not in God's plan or will for them to be with us to celebrate, we still celebrate their journey. Even in our we have a book that we have written our stories. We have also included the stories of our deceased, I think there are six women clergy women who have already gone to be with the Lord, but we still celebrate their work, we still celebrate their support, what they did to others, and their success. So the families, let them be encouraged, let them know that the Lord still loves them and cares for them, and and that the work the ladies did in the Lord's vineyard is never in vain. They will continue experiencing the blessings of God because of the service of those ladies.
I just want to thank God for them, because most of them that have gone before us were ordained before us. Actually, it is only one of them who was just ordained recently. But those were our forebearers. They are the ones that cleared the thicket in the forest for us, and we were able to move. So I just want to say that God used them so that we can be there. They were able to, I don't know what to put it, they were able to lay down so that for us to come and climbing on their back to be where we are. So I just want to thank God for their lives, for the service that they rendered to their church and to their families. And as we continue to remember the good work they did, just to know that they will never be forgotten because they are part of us.
Their time came and they rested. What I would like to tell their family is to continue trusting God. God had good plans. Personally, I was affected by one who was just licensed, and then even before her ordination, she was my good and dear friend. And Margaret, she passed on. But whenever we meet with the children, whenever we talk with the family, I keep encouraging them. So mine is to encourage them to continue, as we are celebrating the 40 years, they are part and parcel of this celebration, even though their parents, their mother is not there. But mine is to encourage them and also to tell them to continue focusing and waiting upon God, because He does everything at His appointed time. Like, we don't know why He took them. We don't know why God took them when they were at the verge of serving Him. Like, for example, Margaret was very fresh from college. Now she has been licensed. Now she's awaiting for her ordination. Some question we may keep on asking ourselves, but God had a better plan for her. So it's just encouraging the family to continue serving the same God whom their parent was serving, and more to it. Because these are calling. If God calls somebody else in their family, they can come and serve God. If there is nobody else who will take over from their parents, it's okay. God will also be happy when they are serving Him elsewhere.
We remember with thanksgiving the women who have been before us, who have paved way for us. Some are deceased at the moment, and I want to make a mention of a few of them. One of them is, as I mentioned, Reverend Grace Odupoy. Of course, I was too young. I never had a contact with her, but I saw her. And just her presence in the church spoke to me and validated, the calling that I have in me. The other one I would mention is Reverend Jane Kasholda. She was the presbytery clerk of our, presbytery clerk, of course, in our presbytery, Ngong Hills, then, when I was a student. And so when we went for practicals, we would report to her. And just seeing her serving in a position of leadership was such a blessing. The other one I would mention is Reverend Alfama Kinywa, the late, who was called to glory not so long ago. And she really helped in the formation of my ministry. When I joined St. Paul's in 2002, young, maybe lost, and all these things, she took me in as a daughter. Like, I would go to her house. She was a lecturer. I would go to her house, and her house was open for me. So I found a home away from home in her house. And then she was the minister at PCA Evergreen. It was just started, had just been started, I think, in 2001, and there I was 2002. So she was the minister taking care of that congregation. And for the 4 years I was at St. Paul's, she took me alongside her. So we would go there and serve. And so I started serving with the youth ministry there, and I really grew within the 4 years that I was serving. So I celebrate these women who have made way for us. I celebrate Reverend Dr. Nyambura Njoroge. She heard about my story and my struggles to join theological college. I think she had it through the St. Paul's because she was in touch with St. Paul's. And even before she ever met me, she really sent people to encourage me. Like, let that girl, you know, join the college and all that. And she sent messages of congratulations. And I felt, you know, cared for and very much affirmed. And of course, along the way, she accompanied me. And together with Professor Mombo of St. Paul's, I got introduced to the ecumenical world again. I was really blessed to be in their hands. So we celebrate the many women. Those are the ones, some of them are deceased. I remember also falling to the hands of one Reverend Wamboi Gari. Wamboi Gari, I mispronounce her name sometimes. She was a minister in PCA Kibiko Parish. And that's where I went for my first practical. You can imagine, green and everything. She took me in as a big sister and showed me the way. Oh, there are many, many women. Many, many. I may not be able to mention them all, but they have done an amazing, amazing job. And may the Lord bless them. May the Lord continue blessing the families of those who have already left us.